Bruchim yeah.
Different trips. Yeah, for another trip this morning with you. How's my struggle?
Amen. Amen. Yeah, beautiful.
Disseminated internationally. She put some money up over here. If they would have seen what could be in the year 2000.
Yeah.
Somebody to say something, and then I get a text from somebody.
You're so smart. I never knew you're so smart.
Normally they're like, well, what is a dumb question?
What are you hacking a Chinek?
But everyone else is saying,
Not really. Don't worry.
so you ask the questions.
You could say whatever you want.
It's not how it was brought up, but okay.
Huh?
It's not how I was brought up, but okay.
That's why. That's why you need it, maybe.
Yeah.
If you were brought up that way, I would tell you not to say whatever you want.
By the way, my son Yossi, he used to come up to the Poconos. He's up with your son up there.
In Wilkes.
Yeah, loves it.
Beautiful.
He went up there 3 weeks ago.
Very special place, Wilkes.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
See the place and it was
Unbelievable, yeah.
fell in love with it.
Yeah.
3 weeks ago.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Bruchim Abayim to everybody. It's been a while. Our last year was before Purim, so I missed you. Baruch Hashem, we're back. So we'll begin a new Maamar today, Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach, in honor of Pesach. Okay, just to announce that Thursday morning I'm not here, so there'll be a shiur Friday morning, because this Thursday I'm not here, so I won't be able to come. So Friday morning, Be'ezer Hashem, we'll have a shiur at 8. We'll continue the Maamar. Okay, this class is dedicated by our dear friend Reb Ezra David Philip in honor of all of the brave and amazing soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces, Tzva Haganah Yisrael, and the Air Force, who are guarding and protecting our eternal homeland and our eternal people in the midst of the major war between Israel and America and Iran that began Shabbos Parsha Zachar, Tavshin Pei Vav, Yud Aleph Adar, a few days before Purim, and is continuing. May Hashem protect all of His people and obliterate the Amalekites of our time. B'chesed u'berachamim. Amen u'bekarev mamish. We should see a complete victory and a complete redemption. So this Maamar was said by the Rebbe on the second night of Pesach, Tovshin Yutes. As you could see in the headline, Leil Beis the Chag HaPesach Tovshin Yutes, which is 1959, and it begins with a passage of the Haggadah, a passage of the a pasuk in Parshas Bo, and the commentary of the Haggadah. Now, usually you wouldn't see a Maamar with this date, the second night of Pesach. Second night of Pesach, you have a Seder. So, but the truth is that the second night of Pesach, the Rebbe would say a Maamar, and the reason was because the Rebbe then, those years, he did a Seder in the house of his father-in-law, the Rebbe Rayatz, passed away 9 years earlier, but nonetheless, as long as his mother-in-law was living, his mother-in-law, Rebbe Tzina Chamadina, was alive, which was till Asar B'Teves Tavshin Lamed Aleph, 1970, for 20 years, the Rebbe did the Seder and all the Yom Tov meals in the house upstairs, the same setup, like when the Rebbe Rayatz was there physically. He would sit in the same place on the left side, his brother-in-law sat on the right side, but the Rebbe would not speak there. He would say sometimes in the middle of the meal, if they ask a question, he would answer, but he generally did not speak. He didn't even sit at the head table. So he sat the same place that he sat before Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud when the Rebbe Rayatz was there. The second night of Pesach, the minhag by the Rabbeim was they would give long explanations of the Haggadah, but the Rebbe would not. So after the Seder, at around 1 o'clock in the morning, he came out for a Farbrengen, which would go approximately till 4 in the morning, for a few hours. So this was after the whole second Seder was over. Second Seder is a longer Seder. So it would come out into the Beis Medrash, into the Zal, upstairs, but really it was downstairs because the Seder was on the second floor of 770 where the Rebbe Rayatz lived. So it would come down where his room is and then go out to the Bazal and Fabreng over there. There was also no food at the Fabrengen because it was after the Afikaiman, it was after the Seder, so there was no drinking and no food. And that's before my days, but I heard there was also a lot of people sleeping, after a Seder. But the Rebbe with Fabrengen was very, very heavy Fabrengens, long, geschmacke Fabrengens, and he would explain the whole Haggadah in those Fabrengens. He would go through the Haggadah. It was almost like a second Seder after the Seder. And the Rebbe would often say a Maamar. The Maamarim of those nights were very fundamental Maamarim about Pesach. So that's the Maamar here. So it was a whole Fabrengen. There were many Sichos and a Maamar. So you'll see the second night of Pesach, almost every year there's a Maamar.
Extra high for the people who are having to remember it.
There's a few places here they say they don't remember. Taken this Maamar, another Maamarim. The second night of Pesach, it was hard. You drink 4 cups of wine, and it's b'chlal late. Fabrengen to start 1 o'clock in the morning, and the Rebbe's Fabrengens were not vertlach. They were long sichos and Maamar. Whoever wanted, not everybody came. It wasn't whoever wanted came, but that's just the historical context. Yeah, so that's why it says Leil Beis the Chag Pesach Tavshin Yotes. It would be Negunim. It was like a regular Fabrengen. Negunim, sichos, Maamar. There was even one year that Rebbe went through the whole Haggadah. He explained Tavshin Chavav, the whole structure of the Haggadah from beginning throughout the Haggadah. The whole structure. It was a long, long sikh. Okay. We learned other years. We learned Kama Mailas Toivus Lamakam Aleinu was the second night of Pesach. Tavshin Chavzayin Dayenu, a Maamar on the whole the piece of Dayenu. Kama Mailas Toivus on Kriyas Yamsuf. Yeah. Tavshin Lamed Aleph, his mother-in-law passed away. Yeah, the erste Nacht, nein. It was only the second night. Yeah. Tavshin Lamed Aleph, his mother-in-law passed away, so then the Rebbe went to his own house and did the Seder over there after that and did not come back afterwards. So that's what happened. So the Maamar begins on the Pasuk in Parshas Bo, which we say in the Haggadah. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, as you could see, footnote number 1, Boy Yud Beis Yud Beis. Perik Yud Beis, Pasuk Yud Beis in Parshas Bo, chapter 12, verse 12. So he tells Moshe Rabbeinu about the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim. And after telling him all the instructions about making a Seder and eating matzah, and eating maror, eating the Korban Pesach and so forth, so he says, V'avarti be'eretz Mitzrayim b'layla hazeh. I'm going to pass through the land of Egypt on this night. And he continues, I'm going to strike every firstborn, from human to animal, and in all of the gods of Egypt, I'm going to create destruction, Ani Hashem. That's the pasuk in Parshas Bo, promising what's going to happen on this special night. V'darshu Razal, on this pasuk, Chazal have a drasha, and this drasha is in the Haggadah. It's called Razal because the Haggadah comes from the explanations and the midrashim of Chazal, Mechilta, and other midrashim. So Chazal say in the Haggadah, Va'avarti, I'm going to pass. It's going to be me, Va'avarti, I'm going to pass. I'm not going to send an angel. Then he continues, V'kesi kol b'char, I'm going to strike every b'char. Ani v'loi saraf, it's going to be me. I'm going to do it, not a fiery angel. And then he continues, B'chala l'kei Mitzrayim eser shvatim, I'm going to create destruction of the gods of Mitzrayim. Ani v'loi shliach. Ani v'loi hashliach. Me and not a malach, me and not a saraf, me and not a shliach. And then he finishes, Ani Hashem, Ani Hashem, Ani v'loi acher. Me and nobody else. So Ani v'loi malach, Ani v'loi saraf, Ani v'loi shliach, Ani v'loi acher. That's how Chazal darshan this pasuk, that each time he says, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 4 times, and by then Ani, it's all me, Ani v'loi acher. Shemizem move on, what are they trying to bring out from this? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm not sending angels. I'm not sending shluchim. I'm not sending srafim. I'm not sending anybody. This is not something I delegate. This is going to be something ani. No. The vart is, so from here, Shemizem move on, Shebalayla kayakvar kol toikef hagula. This means that at night you already had the entire intensity, the entire power of the redemption, ad lahagila de b'chvoidei b'atzma, till the revelation of him himself, like we say later in the Haggadah, that nigla aleya melech malchem lachem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, why do we eat this matzah? He says it did not become fermented, it did not become chametz like hispik, B'tzekas shalav yiseinu lahachmitz at shenigla alei melech malch hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chveido ba'atzmai u'ga'alam. Until Hashem himself, everything is from Hashem. But there could be a malach, there could be a sarav, there could be a shliach, there could be an acher. It's also from him, but it's the way it's manifested through different garments, through different expressions, through different lights, through different shluchim, like a shliach. You send a shliach. It's also you, shluchish ladam kamaisa. But it's still coming through levushim, it's coming through garments. And here he says, no, it's ani, ani v'loy sarav, ani v'loy malach, ani v'loy shliach, ani v'loy acher. This is what we say in the Agadah. So we see already that at night, this is all Balayla Hazah, at night, you already have the whole Toikef HaGeula, b'chvaydei ba'atzmai, without shluchim, without tzrafim, without malachim, without anybody else. V'tzarich lahavin, what needs to be understood is, the l'chayra, there's a seiser, l'mashakasov, be'etzem hayoyim hazeh. L'chayra, this is a contradiction to what it says later. This is the beginning of the Parsha, Pasuk Yud Beis. Later, in Pasuk Mem Aleph, he tells Moshe Rabbeinu, actually he doesn't tell him, it's actually the story that at the end of all their time in Eretz Yisrael, in middle of the day of the 15th of Nisan, Yatsu Kol Tzivus Hashem Eretz Mitzrayim. That's when all of the troops of Hashem left Mitzrayim. Shagula Ha'isa B'yayim V'loy B'layla. In the first case, it's mashma that already at night all the action happened. It couldn't get any better. And not even through shluchim. Later we see that no, they had to wait till the day. The truth is that the whole thing seems contradictory. What's really the question? It's not some little technical question. It says Vahi be'etzem hayom hazeh pasuk Maamar, Perikut Beis pasuk Maamar. In the middle of the day, they all went out of Mitzrayim. The next pasuk says, Lel shemurim hu laHashem lo'ytziyah meretz Mitzrayim hu alayla hazeh laHashem shemurim l'chol b'nei Yisrael d'orasim. He goes back to the night. He says, this is the night that Hashem was waiting to take them out of Mitzrayim. This is the night, Leil Shemurim, the day that he was waiting to take them out for generations. So earlier he said it's all the middle of the night. Then he says, by day they took them out of Mitzrayim. Then the next pasuk says, it's this night that he was waiting to take them out. And then at the end of the whole story, pasuk Nun Aleph, he finishes the story, Vahi be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, again, in the middle of the day, he took them out of Mitzrayim. So there's a Ramban on this. The Ramban says all the way at the end, Pasuk Nun Aleph, Shelayatzu balayla kulam min aretz, ala shenosan lem rishus lotzis v'hayu b'nei chayden, avol be'etzem hayoyim ha'u yatzu mikol gvul Mitzrayim. So the Ramban says that's taka what the Torah is trying to say. It says, I'm going to pass through this night. It says, Vahi be'etzem hayoyim hazeh, they went out, and then you have a whole pasuk that Leil Shemurim, this is the night when Hashem waited to take them out, and then you finish Vahi be'etzem hayoyim hazeh hoitzi Hashem es b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim al tzivoisam, because what the pasuk is saying, you could make a mistake, and when you see how great the night is, you could think it all happened at night. So the Rabban says no, don't think at night they all went out from Mitzrayim. He gave them rishus to go out, but that means that they became b'nei chayren. The fact that you have permission to leave. They were liberated. They were emancipated. Paro said, leave. He got up in the middle of the night. He said, go. But no, but they didn't leave yet. It was the middle of the night. But they were already at a different status. So it's not a stira, the Ramban says. At night, it was the night he anticipated to redeem them because they were redeemed people, because they could go. Potentially, they can go. They weren't enslaved. That they had pas pesala. Yeah, like a person. You could leave your house. Doesn't mean you're going to leave your house, but you could leave. You're not stuck. So I think when the Ramban means lots of balayla kulam in haaretz, it's interesting why he adds the word kulam. L'chayra lo yatzu, nobody went out, right? Unless there were a few people who nobody. Huh? I mean, I was wondering why he writes the word kulam. L'chayra lo yatzu balayla. Huh? You're saying nobody. Okay. Okay, so kula means nobody went out. From all of them, nobody went out. But he just had rishus. In the middle of the day, that's when they actually physically left the borders of Egypt. And that's why he uses the word gvul. Because the night before, they were also free, but they were still in the borders of Egypt, physically, geographically. The Chiddush Day was that geographically they physically relocated from the Gvul of Mitzrayim. That's what the Ramban explains in these psukim. So there's two different events, at night and by day. V'cheinu b'gemara. Be'etzem you have this also in Gemara, Maseches Brachas Daf Tes. The Gemara says, she'eschila lehem ha'geula mibe'erev. The Gemara says, it says that Moshe Parei woke up middle of the night and he said, Kumu tzu mitoich chami. It says Laila. He went out middle of the night, he called Moshe and get out, get out. So the Gemara explains that the Geula began mibe'erev, meaning he gave them permission, like the Ramban says. So it started, you have permission. V'hainu, but what does this mean to them? So we see from this, the main redemption happened by day. That's when it actually happened. They were actually redeemed. But it started at night in the sense that they got permission. But nonetheless, you already see in the Vavayte Mitzrayim Balayla Hazeh that the Balayla Hazeh you had the whole Toik of HaGeula, but nonetheless there was still a second phase. But from this whole inyan, what do you get from all of this? So you say, yeah, okay, so you made shalom bayis between the psukim, fine. But now we go back to the shirish of everything. Okay, so it was this. But now you have a question, why did it happen this way? If the Gula happened to be by day, so by day. If the Gula was by night, you could have done it by night. You say people don't leave at night, but over there the whole system was different. I mean, the whole thing was completely supernatural, miraculous. So we understand that in Mitzvah there's two different inyanim. Hayitziyah bayom, vayitziyah balayla. It's not stam technical. He gave permission, they didn't manage to leave. The vision of Yitzias Mitzrayim has two inyanim. There's leaving by night and there's leaving by day. That's takadinyan. And that's why it's complex in the Psukim. The Ramban makes it technically workable. But when you read the Psukim, you see there's a Geula by night and there's a Geula by day. Because in Yitzias Mitzrayim, there's takad two dinim, there's two gdarim, there's two inyanim. You see this also in the mitzvah of remembering Yitzias Mitzrayim. Shamber Razal, the Mishnah says in Pesachim, in every generation a person needs to imagine himself as going out of Mitzrayim. There's two things. Ka'amram, like the Mishnah says in Brachas, Maskidin Yitzias Mitzrayim loirak bayamim elegam baleilas. The Mishnah says in Brachas, we also say it in the Agad, Amar Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, right? I'm like 70 years old, and I still don't know the source of mentioning Yitzias Mitzrayim baleilas. Ben Zayma taught that it says Shenema Laman Tiska Hashem Tzeis Chamayitz Mitzrayim Kol Yemei Chayecha Yemei Chayecha Yom Kol Yemei Chayecha Lav Yaleilos. Ben Zayma says, it says in Parshas Re'eh, you should remember the day that you left Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayecha, all the days of your life. So the question is, why does it say Kol Yemei Chayecha? It could have said Yemei Chayecha, throughout the days of your life. What's Kol? All the days of your life. If you would say throughout the days of your life, I would understand it's all. In Chumash, every word is meticulous. So he says, Yemei Chayecha is Hayamim, the days of your life. But by night, I don't have to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim. Kol Yemei Chayecha is Lavi Aleilos. So here again, you could just say, okay, so it's an extra word to teach you another limud. The Rebbe says, Hagufa, it's because Yitzias Mitzrayim had two dinim, had two gdarim. There was the Yitzias, you understand, it's not stam. Hashem wants you to mention Yitzias Mitzrayim twice, so he puts in an extra word. It could have also been written in a different way. Because there's taka two inyanim in Yitzias Mitzrayim. There's the Yitzias Mitzrayim that happened by day, and there's the Yitzias Mitzrayim that happened at night. And therefore, we mention Yitzias Mitzrayim by day and by night. By day, we mention the Yitzias Mitzrayim of day. By night, we remember the Yitzias Mitzrayim of night. And that's two limudim. One is Yemei Chayecha, and one is Kol Yemei Chayecha. But now the question is, what are these two inyanim? Technically, there was permission, and then there was the actual leaving. On a deeper level, it means there were two phases in Yitzias Mitzrayim. One happened at night, one happened at day. The way it formatted itself wasn't that way, but essentially there were two different inyanim. They didn't happen at the same time or the same inyan. Well, to understand this, Yitzias Mitzrayim. In order to understand this, one needs to first understand the whole inyan of Yitzias Mitzrayim. Once you understand the inyan of Yitzias Mitzrayim, you go back to the source. And then automatically you'll understand that there's two inyanim, there's night and day. So you have Yitzias Mitzrayim on a physical level. Everybody knows what that is. They were stuck in Egypt, they were slaves, and they were emancipated. That's not what he has to explain here in this pasuk. That's Pshutish Lamikra. You learn through Chumash, Shmois Ve'era Boy, and you know the story of Yitzias Mitzrayim. But the Maamar is going to explain Yitzias Mitzrayim on internally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, in the story of the soul. Like every story in Torah that parallels and exists on many different dimensions, on the pneumistic level, on the internal level, and then it's also concrete in a physical world. The Hine Yadu, what's known, this comes from the Arizal. This is a whole shtickle of the Arizal. The Arizal has a Sefer L'Kutei Torah. So Parshas Vayeshev, which is where the story of Mitzrayim begins, because that's when Yosef is sold into Egypt. So L'Kutei Torah L'Arizal Parshas Vayeshev, and Alter Rebbe in Torah Parshas Va'era, he builds two Maamarim on this Arizal, a Maamar and a beer. And this is what the Arizal teaches. Shemitzrayim o inyan meitzer hagaran. You see in footnote 11, he brings the Maamar Makayis. The Arizal says the word Mitzrayim represents a part of the body called Meitzar Hagaran. The word Meitzar, which is like Mitzrayim, means constraints. It's like the word Tsar in Hebrew Tsar is narrow, stingy. Tsar ayin is stingy. Mekayim Tsar is a very narrow space. Constriction, yeah. So the word Meitzar, even in Halach, you have Bar Metzra. Bar Metzra means the person who's on my border. So the border, which constricts your territory, is called Meitzar. Meitzar Ugvul. Min ha-Meitzar karasi ka anani b'merchavya means from a constricted place. What? Tsaris, yeah, very good. Yeah. Geshet Tsar Mayod, yeah. A very narrow bridge, exactly. So the Arizal says Mitzrayim means that, even though it's a place called Egypt, but the shirish of the word is it's a place of Mitzarim. Mitzrayim is exactly the same word like Mitzarim, which means a place of constraint, where you're confined, where you're limited, you're stuck, you can't get out, which is what Galus is. But he says one word, it's Meitzar HaGaran. Garan is the throat and the neck, the passageway from the brain to the rest of the body. What's the connection? HaGaran hu ha'makam ha'tzar ben ha'reish lahaguf. The Garan, which means the throat, the neck, that area, is a makam tsar. It's the narrow passageway to get from the reish to the guf. If you look at the body, the head is more expansive. It's more broad. Certainly the body, because the head is still narrow relative to the body. But once you graduate from the neck and the throat, the body expands. It's a makam rachav, all the way, the torso, the chest, the heart, all the way down. What's the narrowest passageway in the body? The makam tsar, that is the garan, the throat. Why is it that way? You say biologically it works out. But like everything in biology, it's reflective of the spiritual energy. So why is it that the reish, the head itself, is rachav? Then the garan goes tsar. The throat is tsar, it's more narrow. And then it goes into expansion, even more expansion than the head in the body. What's the inyan of this? But Arizal says that's what Mitzrayim represents in the person's life, the Meitzar Hagar. What does this mean? It's not just in the limbs of the body, meaning in the anatomy. You came the right day. You came on the right day. It's not only in the anatomy of the body. I'm saying after 7 years, you show up, biology. Okay. Exactly. Just like it's in the Ivarei Haguf, it's not just an issue of anatomy. It's connected to the faculties of the soul. In other words, you could just say it's a fact of anatomy. Like, what do you want? This is how the body is built. It works out that way. But it's also b'koiches hanefesh. It's in the faculties of the soul. Tlas meichin shebereish means there's three. The brain is such a complex organ. Even the word complex doesn't really define it. Complex beyond description. It's miraculous, right? The 2-3 pounds of the little jello called the brain, situated in our skull, contains the entire nervous system and the entire experience of consciousness and all the life of the body. But the Zohar has an expression that is tlas meichin shebereish. There's three central aspects of the brain, which are kelim, they're physical channels, vessels, for three aspects of seichel, three aspects of cognitive awareness. One is called chachma, one is bina, one is das. There's the part of the brain that's connected to chachma, the part of the brain that's connected to bina, and there's a part of the brain that's connected to das. And it's physical sections. That's why he says tlas meichin shebereish. There's 3 physical sections in the moyach, in the brain, that are kalim. They are the place, the physical space where these capabilities, these faculties primarily function. The faculty of chachma, the faculty of bin, the faculty of das. V'halev sho malka de gufa. The lave, which the Zohar calls the king of the body. Interesting, he calls the lave the king of the body. We'll see why. Because l'chayri you should think the mayach is the king, mayach shalad, but he calls it the lave the malka, who kli lahamidus. The heart is a keli, it's the vessel for the midas, which means the emotional experience of the person. So tlas maychen shabar's 3 sections of the brain are kelim for seichel, chachma, bina, das. Chachma, bina, das are generally 3 different cognitive faculties. Chachma, which is connected to the right part of the brain, is more about intuition. Like chachma is kayach ma, it's the epiphany, it's the nekuda, when you have the seminal point that shines into your brain, you have like a new awareness. Bina, the left side, is more analytical, it's scrutinizing, it's explaining, it's developing the insight, the epiphany, the seminal point into ideas. It's very structured. Bina is all about structure. Chachma is creative. Chachma is inspiration. Bina is perspiration. Chachma is like a flash, and then Bina is development. And Das is application, integration. Das is personalization of it. Va'adam yada is chava, like he says in Tanya. Adam nu chava, which means Adam connected to chava. It's intimacy, intellectual intimacy, if you want. Because Chachma and Bina could remain more abstract. Their ideas, their insights. And Das is already application, personal application. That's connected to the brain. The heart, he says, is called the king. It's the place of midas. The actual experience of it, the embodiment of it, the emotional reaction that you're feeling it. Actually, your heart changed. You could feel the difference in your heart, in your gut, in your blood. There is your heart opens, your heart closes, your heart is expansive. You're breathing differently. Huh? The heart rate increases. Yeah, your muscle structure. This is midas is the internal emotional experience of it, not understanding of it. That's primarily in the lave, in the heart. It's a keli for the midas. The Seder is usually the Seder is that his beinunus b'seichel, meditation or contemplation, deep awareness of seichel misayredim. Through that, you have an arousal, a creation, a seidedus of the midas. V'hainu shekashem is bein balabatish practical. Is bein b'sichus davazet tayv lefanov elahepach. If somebody meditates in their mind or contemplates in their mind, but they have a very clear, bright awareness that this thing in front of me is tayv, it's good. This thing doesn't necessarily mean a physical thing. It can mean a person, it can mean a truth. But this reality, Davar says, this reality, tayv lefanov, it's good. It's amazing, it's incredible, it's beneficial. Oilahepech, on the contrary, it's dangerous, it's harmful, it's scary, it's overwhelming, it's negative. Our midas respond. There is an arousal, an emotional arousal that responds to that, either in love or the opposite, in fear. Either I'm attracted or I reject. Either I want to get closer or I want to get further. Now obviously it's manifested in so many different ways, but there's no emotion that is not preceded by an awareness. I may not always realize it because I'm just emotionally reacting, because my body works very, very fast. The system works very, very fast. Sometimes it works very slow, sometimes it works very fast. But the fact is that the emotion is always preceded by some label. There was some definition, some explanation, some definition of what the reality is. And the midas are responding to that. My emotional self is responding to some form of awareness. That's why he says in Tanya that Moichin are considered the parents of the midas. The Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perek Gimel, based on Sefer Yetzirah, that Chachma bin Adas are called mothers, imais. And the midas are called children, told us. A child is not born in a vacuum. A child needs to come from the genetic pool of the parents, from the seed, from the egg. That's not from nowhere. The child takes it maybe to the next level. The midas become much more powerful than the parents. That's true. We're going to see that too. But there's some source of it. So I may be emotional, very, very emotional, but there's an awareness there. Now that awareness is the source. Awareness itself, though, has many levels. There's the mother and there's the father. Right? If you look at the child, you could right away see the connection with the mother. The child came out of the mother. But it didn't start only with that. There's also a father, but the father may be very, very far. The father may be in China now. But the fact is that this child came from the mother and also from the father. So in awareness too, how far do you go to see where the midas came from? It's not always so visible. A mother and a child is more visible. Even there, at some point, there's a separation and you may not know the mother. But with the father, even initially, there's a distance. But it doesn't mean it's not connected. It just means the connection is much more nebulous. It's a little seed. But that seed has half the genetic coding of the entire organism of the child. It's not a small thing. So there's no midah ever existed in history that doesn't have a father and a mother. To be able to identify what is there's an awareness that had to precede. There's some seichel that had to precede this reaction. Now you say, no, this is reality. Fine, this is reality, I get it. For me, this is reality, and therefore I'm responding this way. Either in a very, very powerfully positive way, or in a very powerful negative way, or even disconnect. But whatever the midah is, it's coming from a source. All self. Why is this important? It's not stam to give maps, because all growth is based on this. If I'm not ready to look at the mother and father of the child, I'm stuck in a particular format. If I'm not asking what is the thought process that preceded this emotional reaction, I can never deal with it. It is. So I remain stuck in that mode. I can never get out of it. I can never graduate. The moment you could start looking, wow, you had a very, very strong emotional reaction, say a negative reaction. Right? But what happened 3 seconds before that? I don't know what happened. It just happened. It didn't just happen. There's a father and a mother. Let's talk to them. We don't go to I'm not on speaking terms with my father and mother. Okay, so maybe let's bring them into the house. Maybe you should start being on speaking terms with your mother and father. So, my father's Noila Ma'amashen. I mean metaphorically, whatever that means emotionally. Okay, so let's say Yisker and talk to him. But this is a process which allows awareness of what's happening inside. It's not stam pure chaos. It may feel like chaos, there's no question, because midas are very, very intense. Seichel is all about categories, ChatGPT. With midas, that's not ChatGPT. It doesn't stop chatting, but it's in a different way. It could be very, very intense. That's what midas are. They're emotional. Nonetheless, every child comes from a source. Yeah, clear, yeah? Why they made Hagar. So here comes a fascinating beer. The flow from Seichel HaMidas, don't take it for granted. It goes through the Meitzer Hagar. In other words, it goes through a transformation through the Meitzer Hagar, through the
Strait of Hormuz.
Right. I was just thinking. When you talk about the Strait of Hormuz, right? How vulnerable it is. And if it's blocked, the whole world economy, what's happening now with Iran, the whole world economy could become paralyzed, Khalila. Yeah. Because there's a strait, and you don't have 20 straits, you don't have 20 highways. You have one strait, you have one path. And if that becomes blocked, this is it. This is the passageway. Exactly, we know what happens. So he says, this process, the Amshacha from Seichel to Midas, the way Hashem created the human soul is, it goes through the Meitzer Hagar. What do we mean? It's not like in Jewish philosophy and in Kabbalah and philosophy, something called Ilah v'Allah. Don't think it's Ilah v'Allah. What's Ilah v'Allah? You know what Ilah v'Allah means? Ilah means an antecedent. Alul means the result of the antecedent. For example, an apple tree, an apple is the alul of a seed. The seed is the ilah, which produces the tree, which produces apples, which will produce a new seed, right? The apple will produce a new seed, which will be the alul of the apple, and then that seed will become the ilah of the next apple tree. Everything in life is ilah v'alul. Cause and effect, yeah. The antecedent, it's called, the source, the ilah, and the alul is what's alul, what's born, what emerges from the ilah. And then that becomes, I'm an alul of my father and mother, but my mother and father are an alul of their parents, and so on, all the way back to Adam and Chava, the first ilah of alul. And that's the process of things. So you can always go back. This alul came from this ilah, but that ilah came from a different one, and different one, different one. And of course it goes through transformations, but you can always identify the properties of the last alul in the first ilah, right? Never from the apple of a seed, from the seed of an apple, you'll never have an orange tree. You'll have a lot of different types of apple trees because of things that happen. But from the seed of a father and a mother, a human, you're not going to have a horse. Even though some of us were called ferd in yeshiva, right? We should speak to your teachers, Akstam. He says, don't think seichel and midas are regular ilah, it's not. Sha'ila atzma nasis mitziyas ha'alul. By ilah and alul, the ilah itself is morphed into the alul. The ilah develops into the alul. The source develops, just like the genetic code of a father and a mother develops into the child. Or the seed, actually a seed contains in it the plant. It has to develop, of course, and it could take a long time, but the ilah becomes the alul. Don't think that the seichel itself becomes midas. It goes into the next stage. That's not the pshat. That's not the case. It's not a simple process. There actually has to be an interruption of the original light, an interruption of the Eirasech. And that's why you have this whole Meitzir HaGaran, the straight, from where the Seichel goes through, because in the Meitzir HaGaran, which we said is the narrowest part of the body, the world of Seichel gets interrupted. It ceases to be. He's going to explain what this means. And then something new happens. Midas. So it's not a regular ilah v'alul where it's just a transmission where the ilah becomes the alul and the alul becomes the next ilah and it becomes and it goes and it goes. The snowball just expands and expands, but it's actually an interruption and a new reality. That's why you see practically sheyesh hefsek zman ma. There could be an interruption of time. Time, whether physical time or emotional time, meaning it's not a natural transformation between his beinenus shebeseichel and his pailus shebemidas. It's not bitkifus. Bitkifus means it's not takeif. This comes and this comes right after. So Pasha, it could take a lot of time between the two, or some time. And time can also mean that a person can have a lot of seichel and it doesn't go into midas. It's not a simple graduation from here to here. The reason is v'tama davarhu lefi sheseichel midas hem hafchim zemiza. Because really you have to understand, it's not a regular ilah v'alul. Ilah v'alul, the ilah identifies the properties. In the ilah you can identify all the properties of the alul. And in the alul you can identify the source of it in ilah. Even though it may have taken thousands of years between the first apple and today's apple tree. But you could still identify it. Especially with a microscope, you could see in the seed, you could see everything that's coming from the seed. It could take many years, that's true. But it's a hemshech. He says, Seichel and Midas are two hafchim, they're two opposites. What do you mean they're two opposites? Why? You just said that every Midah came from Seichel. It's apparent, so it's not opposites. But the Inyan is an opposite Inyan. Why? Sham Midas, hem misrakshus v'espailas v'hergish atzma. Mashenken ha-moichin hem bekridas u'mesinus u'bittel atzma. The pshat is like this. The definition of Midas is his shrakshus, his spailas, and hergish atzma. His shrakshus means, when you say somebody, there's a lot of hisrakshus, the word regesh, passion. His spilus means from the word pu'ula, you're moved, you're affected. And hergish atzmai means you feel yourself. There's a hergish atzmai, there's a self-consciousness there. That's the definition. Moichin, in essence, are kriris, there's a coldness. There's a mesinus, which is a calmness. And bittel atzmai, it's self-forgetfulness. What does this mean? What this means is, the definition of midas is, I exist. That's the definition of midas. That's why it's not so comfortable for everybody. Definition of midas is, my existence actually matters. It's a serious existence. It's so serious that I actually feel. And I even respect it. I feel. I love you. I know today in text you could write I love you without the word I. But in reality, there's no love without I. Who loves you? The robot? IT? Who loves you? Artificial intelligence? we write love you, but really it's I. What gives the love power is that there's an I behind it. If a person does not feel themselves, here we're talking about feeling yourself in a good way. We're soon going to see this. He's going to explain the struggle with this. But if you don't feel yourself in a good way, if there's no a deep awareness of self-value, self-respect, there's no union of midas. That's why people who hate themselves in a deep place can't really love other people. Not because they don't want to, but because it's a manifestation of your own experience, of your own feeling. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but this is very, very serious stuff. V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha means you love your friend like yourself. So it's not just love him as much as yourself, you narcissist. That's what it sounds like. Love him like you love yourself. Don't be selfish. It's also saying something much more subtle. Right? Dr. Twersky, Allah Hashem, says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha, like you love yourself. It's going to actually be an expression of how much you love yourself. It's going to be like you love yourself. Because that's what it's going to be. That is what I'm giving you. What am I giving you when I'm giving you love? What am I giving you? If I feel that deep down, maybe subconsciously, I'm an inconsequential, worthless, degenerate shmata, so who's really loving you? An inconsequential, degenerate, worthless shmata. So how does that feel to be loved by a shmata? Tell me. Yeah, that's what I'm giving you. You know, we spoke in a shir the other day, right? If I have $100 in my pocket, I can give you $100. If I don't have $100 in my pocket, I could want to give it to you, but I can't give it to you. You may want to give your kid $1 million. It's beautiful. You should. But if I don't have it, if I have a nickel, I can give you a nickel. So that's true with money. You think it's not true with emotions? With money, everybody understands. I can't give you what I don't have in my bag. I can't. I would like to. I can't. I can give you a tissue if I have a tissue. If I don't have tissues, I can't give you tissues. So with emotions, you think it's any different? Madach, with a tissue, it's that way. With money, with emotions, it's 1,000,000,000 times more. Much deeper. Exactly. Money you could steal. Very good. Emotions you can't steal, yeah? Yeah. Yeah. Somebody writes checks. So he says, at least with checks, it can look like you're giving something. And the truth is, with love, it can also look like. Yeah. I could say the words, and there may even be good intentions. But the experience of it, I can't give you if I don't have. Huh? Huh? This is important stuff. That's why he says midas is based on hergish atzmai. Right? I'm really feeling it. If I don't feel myself, if I'm disassociated with myself, if I'm just loving because I want to be a tzaddik, it's a beautiful thing. And the truth is, we some of us grew up that way. You love because you want to be a good person. But you never learned the experience of love inside yourself. You never felt it. You don't even know what it is. It's a science. It's not an experience. It's something on paper. So I could behave that way, which is in itself a very special thing, to do the right thing, to do loving things, to do a favor, to be nice on paper, which is a big thing, obviously. Achrei ha'polus nemshachas halavavos, Sefer HaChinuch says. But nonetheless, the midah of it, the experience of it, may completely not be there. What's worse is I may not even know that there's such a reality. I may not even know. I may only know of the reality on paper. I may not even experience because I don't have an experience of it. So that's why he says midas is based on 3 things. Midas are hisrakshus, hispilus, and hergish atzmai. I don't know, I wouldn't call them 3 different things, but he's speaking out 3 points. They're all connected. Histractious means you're pashat behistractious. You're emotionally moved. You're not the same like before. You're behistractious. Histractious means you say this person is in histractious. Hispilus is a connected. The word hispilus comes from the word pa'ula. You're affected. You're not static. Yeah, you're not robotic. You're affected. You're actually affected. That is midas in simple English. It's a vulnerable space to be in. You're being affected. You're in a vulnerable space. You're not detached. It's not like nobody can get to me. No, you could get to me. Hispilus means you got to me. You got to me, right? This tissue, I got to the tissue. I got it. I got them. I did a pula in him. Midas is somebody got to you. It's affecting you in a very real way. And by the way, that's why it's so dangerous for many of us. Because you have to be safe. If I want to be safe, what's one of the greatest strategies in life? Not to go to midas. You're always safe. You remain a computer. The computer monitors, yes, no, everything is calculated. That's not midas. Midas is hispilus, hisrakshus, and it's all based on hergesh atzmi. Of course I feel myself. If I wouldn't feel myself, I wouldn't be able to have a midah. How can I feel love or awe or reverence or a deep attraction, or whatever the feeling is, if I don't feel myself? If I'm in an emotional coma, I can't have midas. What's the inyan of seichel? Right? You may say to somebody, you're too emotional, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. You're not going to say you're too emotional, therefore you can't feel what I'm saying. I need you to be emotional to feel what I'm saying. The inyan of seichel, he says, it's fakert. Krirus. For seichel to be functional, if I'm completely overwhelmed emotionally, the seichel is not going to function. Seichel is a function of krirus. Krirus means coldness. Mesinus is relaxation. What do I mean relaxation? Not that midas I'm not relaxed. Midas doesn't mean I'm irregulated. Sometimes the midas are the deepest regulation. But mesinus means that the person is actually in a much more poised, in a much more controlled position. Ubitul atzmai. Seichel is about bitul atzmai, meaning it's not negeya what I'm feeling. We're talking about a truth. We're talking about an idea. That's the idea. Midas, you're not talking about an idea. You're talking about your experience. I'm not talking about an idea. I'm talking my own experience. Seichel is not about my experience. Seichel is the inyan itself. That's why it's bitul atzmai. And even though seichel also needs a ratzon, you want to be interested. If you don't want to understand, you're not going to understand. I don't understand. Well, do you want to understand? If somebody is not ready to understand, they can have a very good head and a good brain, an open brain. It's not going to work. So that means you always have to have a desire. And ratzon is the chaninyan of midas. I want. He says that's true. This ratzon is before you start the process of conceiving and understanding. In order for your kayach sichle to be open, to be fertile, you need ratzon. Like starting the engine. But the hasaga itself, comprehending, is dafka in a place of, there's a coldness, there's a relaxation, there's a bittul, meaning I'm completely trying to tune in to what the awareness is, not to where I am in the process. You see practically, if in middle of comprehension, you're only experiencing yourself, you will not understand the inyan. There needs to be some form of transcendence, some form of put this on pause and let's try to explain the inyan. You'll get back to you. If it's only, but I'm not feeling, but I'm feeling. Emotionally, if you're there, you're not going to be able to understand any inyan outside of yourself. And that it's sometimes very hard. I can't. Vice versa too, yeah.
It's like people that are listening in order to answer. They're already thinking about.
Yeah. That's why, if you're in the midst of an intense experience, an intense emotion, it's very hard to hear something else. You have to understand, because it's a whole different stance. It's a different stance. It's a different state of consciousness. Yeah. You have, for example, in halacha, you have the concept of shoichad, that if a judge takes shoichad, it disqualifies all of his psakim. Why? In this inyan. Ha-shoichad ya'aver. Why? The answer is pashat. He's blinded. It's in a different place now. Because the self-interest,
He contaminated the seichel with midas.
Yeah. He contaminated the seichel. He can't be any more objective. Seichel requires a certain objectivity, not in a negative way, in a very beautiful way. What does objectivity mean? Objectivity means that I'm actually trying to understand something. Now, how is it related to me? We'll see how it's related to me. But right now, if all I'm busy is my own experience, I will never be able to tune into the truth of the inyan. So it's a whole different stance. So it's not some regular ila va'alo. The seed becomes the apple, where the apple is just a manifestation of the seed. Here it's two opposites. Seichel requires self-forgetfulness. self-transcendence. Midas is all about self-experience, self-assertion, self-presence. It's a whole different inyan. Seichel, was weniger ich als besser. The less I, Midas without I, there's no such thing as Midas. There's no such a thing as Midas without I. And that's why people who've learned that the I is evil have a very deep problem with Midas. They still have Midas, but they don't know how they can't respect their Midas. There's no relationship with it. And that's why, as we will see, a person could succeed in the world of Seichel amazingly and fail horribly in the world of Midas. Usually, if your Ila is successful, your Allah will also be successful, but not here. Here, fakert. Success in the world of Seichel could mean dismal failure in the world of Midas. Because the skill set that's required for Seichel is the opposite skill set that's required for Midas. That's why sometimes a person grows up in an environment where Seichel is glorified, ideas, intellectual success, intellectual skills, formulas, methodology, and they really, really excel. And in the world of Midas, it's a disaster of disasters, like marriage. In yeshiva, he was on top of the game. The Rosh Yeshiva was in awe of this guy. Taka, Seichel was amazing. In the world of Midas, the skill set of Midas is a whole different, it's an opposite universe. Maamar an opposite universe. It's interesting.
Is that why it says Kosh Baruch Hu, also Machshava, Kosh Baruch Hu wanted the thought to create the world with din, and he saw that it's not going to be Miskayim. So it's like the Seichel, it was like that process, Seichel first, and seeing when it comes to Midas,
it could be.
It's like the Seichel
It could be. Yeah. And since they're two opposites, so how do you get from one to the other? Yeah. So the truth is, we just I don't know, it's supposed to happen. He says, but it's not so partial. There's a hefsek. A hefsek means one world has to end for a new world to begin. Like the principle, between one yesh and another yesh, between one yesh, one something, and another yesh of a completely different world and magnitude, you can't go direct. You need an ayin. You need to go through a state of ayin. Bein yesh liyesh, you need an ayin be'emtza. This is a very big klal in Chassidus. If you want to go from one yesh to another yesh, which is just a gradual development, you don't need an ayin be'emtza, like ila v'olu. But if you're going from a yesh, and the leap to the other yesh is a serious leap, the only way you can do it is if you go to a place of ayin in the middle, which is nothingness, where you lose the first yesh and you don't have the second yesh. And that's why it's scary. For example, the parable would be, you have a seed planted in the ground. You want it to produce a tree which is going to produce fruits. But to get from the seed to the tree, which are completely incomparable to each other, even though this is also called ilavala, but nonetheless, it's a huge transformation to get from a seed to a tree. It doesn't just happen gradually. The seed is planted, and then the seed, he says, goes through recovering. Recovering means it decomposes. And the original seed is not going to be left. It opens up. The seed has different parts of it. It has the coat. It has to open up, decompose, and then from there the tree comes out. You can't hold on to that original yesh if you want it to morph in to a new yesh. It has to go through a stage of ayin where it forgets and loses its original identity. And he says what happens then is, then it could be ma'oyer the koyach hatzamech shabaretz. It can arouse the vegetative power in the earth to bring out its full potential. If you want to leave the seed as is on your windowsill, it's beautiful, beautiful seed. Why mess with it? But a tree it's not going to become. This is a mashal in the world of tzemeach. It's also a mashal in the world of animals or of birds. The chick emerging from the egg completely splits open and becomes, you had a beautiful egg. You can have a beautiful, wonderful omelet for breakfast. Good protein. Amachaya. right? Very geschmack. But for the beitza to morph in, to develop a chick, so it says, "Aidei sirchen beitza dafka." The beitza, the egg, becomes unusable. It becomes decomposed. Sirchen means it's how do you say sirchen in English? Spoiled completely. Ki gagavil afra ba'almahu. The expression in Gemara Maseches Tmura is ki gagavil. As the egg emerges into a bird, into a chick, afra ba'alma becomes like afar. It's not like a beitza. It's negei lahalacha. You know what's negei lahalacha? It's very interesting. A beitza's treifa, if you have let's say a chicken, right, or another kosher bird, and it's treifa. Treifa means it has a terminal illness, right? Let's say a behema has a terminal illness and it's going to die. So even if you shecht it, you can't eat it. This is called treifa. The original word treifa means basa basada treifa. Let's say it has an illness that within 12 months it's naturally going to die. So even if you shecht it today, you can't eat it. It's called treifa. So that's why you have to check the lungs, right? If it had a puncture and basically it can't survive, that's called hilchas treifas. So then you're not allowed to eat it even though you got it before it died. So it wasn't an avela yet. So now what happens if this treifa chicken, treif I mean not treif like we call treif. Treif means it was sick to the point that it can't survive. Yeah, fatzukt, yeah, treifa. And it lays an egg. So you're not allowed to eat the egg. It's a beitzas treifa. But the interesting thing is, if this beitza gives birth, hatches a chick, then you could eat it. So it's a funny thing. The mother is treif and the child is kosher. How does that happen? And for the Gemara, ki gagavel afra ba'almahu, for the chick to come out of the egg has to become ice egg. It's afra ba'almahu. And afra is not treif. You understand? It's not a regular ilavala. It's such a transformation. This chick, what do you want from the chick? The chick came out of an egg. The chick is kosher. It's a kosher species and the chick is not sick. So you can eat the chick. You have to shecht it, obviously. Where it came from was an egg. He says, no, it came from afar. Because for the egg to morph into a chick, it has to become ayin, afra ba'almahu. So it doesn't have that same halachic sequence. What's he trying to bring out here? He's trying to bring out you're never going to go through a transformation from one mitzias to another mitzias when it's a significant departure if you're not going to lose everything in the middle. At some point there's going to be an ayin where you're at lost. Because if you hold on to the first yesh, you can hold on to your seed, but you're never going to become a tree. You can hold on to your egg, but you're never going to become a chick. You see my mushal of being stuck in an egg a whole life. It's a good mushal. You could have a beautiful, an egg is a night. We like eggs. Who doesn't like eggs? Very good. But a living creature is not going to come from it. You could take the egg and cook it and make your egg. But it's a whole different mitzias. It's also true with people. We gave a mashal of tzemeach. We gave a mashal of chai. Now he goes to medaber. The person is a medaber seichel. You see practically that in order for you to have a new seichel, a new epiphany from your koyach hamaskil, which is your subconscious source of ideas, this is called koyach hamaskil. Tzarich liyas tchila bittul mitzu usay b'chol chelkei seichel ad gam chinas hachachma. You need to have a bittul of your mitzias in all parts of seichel, even in your chachma. It's an expression in Daniel. You're ishtaimim. Ishtaimim means you lose it. You're astounded. You're like in awe. Ishtaimim means that your whole seichel goes down. It goes offline. You have nothing. You don't even have your old ideas. And then you become a keli for a new flow of consciousness from your subconscious. It's a very intense idea. There's never going to be a really new idea in your life if you don't lose everything you knew till now. Doesn't work any other way. You will develop ideas incrementally. Yeah, I could learn more. But a really new access to your koyach hamaskil is not chachma. Chachma comes from koyach hamaskil. When a person has an epiphany, a new idea, where did it come from? Cyberspace? Elon Musk? Who put it into your head? The answer is you knew it all, but you knew it on a super conscious way. That's called koyach hamaskil. Koyach hamaskil has infinite insight, but we don't have access to it. Because if we would have access to it, we would all go crazy. So consciousness is only maybe, I don't even know if 0.5%, a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of our subconscious awareness. When your brain feels that you will not lose it with the new information, it will give you a little trickle of new information. But most of the information, it keeps stored away in the Koyach HaMaskil because we're not ready for it. How much of your true self are you aware of? How much of who you really, really are? And the answer is, it's not what people like to hear, but the answer is, if anything, a very tiny fraction.
Luckily.
If.
Let's say luckily that we're not.
And we could live our entire life not knowing this. Not even knowing that there's such a possibility. What do you mean? I know everything about myself. Well, I know what I feel like. I'm hungry, I'm starving, I'm upset, whatever it is. Yeah. What's the keli to get a new insight from Koyach HaMaskil? The answer is ayin. As long as I'm holding on to a way of looking at things and understanding, I'm going to stay there. I'll grow more and more and more. Nachash tikal Gemara, another insight. Fine, beautiful. But a new yes, you're not shaykh to. There's an element of ishtoimim where you like lose everything. You're now ayin. There's nothing left. And now you have nothing to sell. There's nothing left. You have nothing. But in that nothingness, something new is born. In simple English, when you go from yesh to ayin is no thingness. When you become no thing, you could become a new thing. If I have to remain a thing, a yesh, I'll remain a thing. I'm not going to evolve to another thing. I'll remain this thing. Maybe I'll enhance it, I'll laminate it. But to go from one thing to a completely new thing, I have to become a no thing in the middle.
From one seichel to another seichel.
So to go, if the seichel is a growth, it's more ideas, it's more insights, yeah. But if it's a completely different yesh, it's a completely different creature, it's a different paradigm. It's such a transformative idea that without the ayin, I could never go there. And that's why when we go into states of ayin, it's one of the hardest things in life because you have nothing to hold on to. It's very painful. But really, it's the greatest gift because there's no awareness that is born like the awareness in the moments of ayin. When we lose everything, I know it's hard to say and it's emotionally not easy. And we have to have a lot of empathy for ourselves and for others because those states are not easy. But in that state of ayin, that's where every new yesh is born. Never has there been a new yesh, a completely different reality entering into my consciousness without that ayin be'emtza. And that ayin be'emtza does not feel like it's a hachana to the yesh. If the ayin is like, I'm going to become nothing for a few seconds, but afterwards you're going to win the Nobel Prize. That's not ayin. Ayin is ayin. Ayin feels like ayin. It doesn't feel like yesh. And if it doesn't feel like ayin, it's not ayin. You understand? If I'm going to prepare for it, okay, right now we're going into nothingness, but don't worry. Don't worry, in an hour there's going to be good news. No. So you're going to get that. You're going to get whatever you can get from that, which is very, very little. It's in the disintegration of the egg. In the disintegration of there's nothing here. This seed is nothing. This egg is nothing. Now with an egg and a seed, it doesn't look so dramatic. When it comes to consciousness, it's very, very dramatic. It's like the person loses everything, even their chachma. Like there's almost nothing to hold on to. In that nothingness, you're opening yourself up to a new birth, to a new reality. The Koyach HaMaskil. The Koyach HaMaskil now suddenly, and it's breathtaking, and you can't prepare for it.
But is that possible to be an ayin? Because there's always something there.
Relative. You're right. We don't become completely ayin, at least not at this stage. But relative. Even in ayin, there's relative ayin. You're right. The ayin of Bria is not the ayin of Atzilus. That's true. The ayin of Asiya is not the ayin of Yitzira. It's true. The ayin of Asiya legabe Yitzira is a yesh, and the ayin of Yitzira legabe Bria is a yesh, and the ayin of Bria legabe Atzilus is for sure a yesh. Ayin itself is infinite because it's Ein Sof. Ein Sof is also ayin Sof. Right. Yeah. It's not intellectually. That's true. A person who's arrogant is not going to learn anything new. You see that also. You see practically the greatest prerequisite for learning new ideas is humility, bittul. When you see scientists or doctors or psychologists or rabbis or scholars of any form who are arrogant, they're not just distasteful. they're undermining the very work they're trying to do. You know, if a scientist has preconceived notions of what the conclusions are supposed to be, it's a disaster. The same is true anybody. The greatest prerequisite for wisdom is humility, bittul, ayin. So on every level, that's true. When you want to get to the koyach hamaskil, you need complete ayin. Yeah. So there's curiosity intellectually. Here, we're going even deeper. For the person to be able to go on a quantum leap, to be able to experience something, there's a state of ayin. And that is usually, not for everybody is that done voluntarily. Because most people, I think, voluntarily will not go into this ayin. Huh? Yeah. It's usually almost like providence is calling you. And here you are. But when we get it, it's a gift. Why is it a gift? Because there's going to be no awareness like you'll have through this ayin. No awareness. I'm going to tell you something else. And that is, what I have found, the only people who can actually teach something that's real is if they went through this ayin. If not, it's just projecting. In other words, it's only in the ayin that a person becomes a keli for something that's really transcendent. So you can hear it right. You can hear the resonance of it. It's a different resonance. If I never lost myself, all I can teach, all I can give is what my ego was ready to let me experience, which is always a very, very limited form. Only in the state of ayin is there a birth of something really transcendent, of a deeper reality. Does it make sense what I'm saying? You don't understand? What are you struggling with? Huh? Oh. So there's a big question. How does somebody become ayin? What does it mean somebody becomes ayin? I don't think I become ayin. If I become ayin, then it's another experiment. When I'm experiencing a moment of ayin, I don't want to resist it. I want to remain open to it. And there's a lot of pain there. There's a lot of tears, a lot of grief over there, because everything is disintegrated. But it's almost like breathing into the ayin with trust that there's something deeper, even though I can't figure it out. I don't have to figure it out. There's moments in life a person feels like if they allow themselves to stay here, they're going to die. Or if they allow themselves to stay, they're going to become crazy. Or if they allow themselves to stay here, they're going to become the worst devil that ever existed in reality. These are real places. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Tavei Alecha Bracha. Maybe stay in your yesh. And it's very painful. You have to acknowledge it's excruciatingly painful. We are designed to be yesh. We're not designed to be ayin. Not a mistake. We're designed to be yesh. We're designed to protect our yesh. We will protect our yesh with everything we have. That's what we do. It's called defensiveness. We want to protect our yesh. We do that. Our minds, our brains develop that way. Our heart, everything in our organism is developed to protect our yesh. And it's a beautiful thing. And then there's moments in life that our yesh is not being protected. It's falling apart. And that's an invitation to a deeper space of living. And that deeper space of living is coming about only because the yesh is falling apart. So what happens at that moment is, I don't have to become ayin. But at that moment, I want to be able to stay present with that, not allow the fear, which is crazy, to just force that space into a new yesh. By running away, by avoiding it, by creating a substitute. Because it's in the ayin where the new yesh is being born. It's like, don't look for the chick somewhere else. As that egg breaks open, don't say, oh, my egg, I lost my egg, let me go get another egg. Don't get another egg now. Stay in the brokenness, stay in the brokenness. Oh, my seed decomposed. Stay here, this is where the tree is. Stay here. But staying in the discomfort is the hardest thing. I don't want to stay here. I'm dying. Everything about me is dying. Wow. So breathe. We all need support for this. This needs a lot of support.
It's a lot of preparation. Keep the double after is a real concern.
Yeah.
You could stay there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just,
It needs a lot of holding. It's called maternal holding. Yeah. I was once watching a chick trying to get out of the egg, and it was such a struggle. You know, because that egg, there was only one little crack, so you could see the chick feeling something, and still there was a membrane, so that even fully wasn't cracked. And it was working so hard for such a long time, and my soft heart had one agenda. I went to the egg to crack it open and let this chick go free at last. And the woman who was there was in her house. She had an incubator. She said, no, don't touch it. I'm like, why? She says, it's this process which allows the chick to develop its muscles that are going to be essential for its survival. If you crack open the egg prematurely, it's going to come out and die within an hour. You're not doing it a favor. You know, we want to crack open that egg, like, get me to the yesh. But it's in that process of nothing happening where everything happens. But you cannot talk about it. you can't control it. It's not something we could control. Huh? You want to talk about this a little bit? So smart. He knows when to stay quiet. Huh? You want to talk about the chicken or the egg? You want to know what comes first, yeah? Very good. That's the question. What comes first? The yesh or the ayin? Very good. And you know the answer is? The answer is we'll never know. We'll never know. If you know what comes first, it's not going to come. We'll never know what comes first. Did you,
Sometimes Hashem puts you through. Thinking about certain people in the tunnels of Gaza. But is there a way where you can put yourself through it? Like you have, you know?
So the people that were in the tunnels in Gaza, you could literally see, you know, everything about their nobody should ever experience everything about their life disintegrated. There was nothing left. And they completely, and what did they find? It's incredible. They found Ein Sof. It's beyond comprehension what happened over there. I heard an interview with a hostage. He said that he was taken to a house in Gaza and it was dark, but there was a crack in the wall. So he focused on the light coming into the crack, through the crack. Then he was taken to a tunnel and it was dark, but there was an LED light, tiny one LED, so he focused on that. And then he said, and then they put him into a dark room that had nothing, no crack in the wall and no LED light, and he says, and I found God. That's what he said. Imagine. What does it mean, I found God? Not God, God, G-O-D. You don't find that. He found God. We can't even say what he found because I don't know. But it's an experience of Ein Sof that doesn't come from words.
At the same time, he could have gone berserk and crazy.
Of course.
for the rest of his life.
He could have lost all of his mind and become completely crazy. Huh? He did, you say. That's the process. And to see a person emerging from that with a whole different life experience, it's incredible. There's no words of comprehension. Even Chachmei says it's not a keli for it. It's a hishtaimamus. There's in Samach Vav, Tafresh Samach Vav, the Rebbe Rashab writes that sometimes a person understands something and they think they got it because they learned it and they comprehended it. Or maybe you have to give a presentation and you prepare something and you have it and you're excited about it. And then when you go deeper into it, you see you don't understand anything. And you're so lost. You're so lost. And he says the person becomes so, like they become almost sick from how much they don't understand it. I really don't understand anything. And he said, and they don't realize that that's the process where they're gonna, that is what's gonna allow them to really understand it. That complete sense of no ego at all. The entire intellectual ego is crushed and abandoned and I'm left with nothing. It actually allows me to get something new that I never had before. And the same is true in every aspect of life. People with marriages, people with their children, for example, struggles with their children. As long as they're trying to control the situation, they'll often not learn anything new. And the same is true in marriage. It's not going when I let go of everything and I don't know anything that I'll actually learn something new. So now what's the nekuda? What's the conclusion? Let's finish this vart here. So he says, Vihine, 3 lines from the bottom. V'hine kashem shum al mata l'mayla ba'Allah so bittul aseichel l'kayach hamaskil keinu gam b'amshacham al mayla l'mata b'amshachas aseichel l'midas. Just as it's true going upward, it's also true going downward. What do we mean? Just like the seichel needs to be bottled to the kayach hamaskil in order to get from the kayach hamaskil something new. The same is true the other way around. When the seichel comes to midas, shetzarich li is tchila bittul seichel shezau ahefsek the meitzer agarin shebeshah zulei mei giliyah klal. Just like it's true going upward, that the seichel needs to become bottled to the kayach hamaskil to get a flow. The same is true now downward. For seichel to go into midas, because midas is a whole new reality that seichel doesn't have. So there has to be the bittul of seichel, and that's meitzer hagarin. As the information goes through the meitzer hagarin, the throat and the neck, something happens. There's no giluyah. V'hainu de kashem she'yin ha'shtei musabay from shlemei giluyah seichel kam. Shadei fos ha'seichel mekayach hamaskal bol achrei ha'shtei memus. V'im kein b'shas ha'shtei memus harei ha'seichel ha'goli hu bebittel. Shaloi meir giluyah klal k'meikeinu gam binyan meitzer hagarin shayodei amshach b'meichel ha'midus. Shebeshazu ein giluyah klal gam loy giluyah seichel v'gam loy giluyah midus shenasal achrei ha'fsek ha'meitzer dafka. Just like, what's hishtaimamus? Hishtaimamus means the moment there's like a complete loss, a sense of loss. Complete perplexed. And at that moment, there's no seichel at all. The seichel from the kayach hamasel comes after the hishtaimamus. In that moment of complete loss, there's nothing. You don't have your old and you don't have the new. So it's like you're throwing off an emotional, so to speak, a cliff, and you don't have anything. And only after that does the mattress show up, do the arms show up to catch you. Like in life, when that happens, I'm like left with nothing. I lost the old, I don't have the new, and from there you can only have the new one. So in that middle process, in that interim process, it's very, very painful. So the seichel to the kayach hamaskil goes through hishtaimamus, and in that hishtaimamus you don't have anything yet. After that, this kayach hamaskil will give you a new flow. The same is true also with the meitzer hagarin. You lose the moichin and you still don't have the midas. Only after the hefsek, the interruption of the meitzer hagarin, where everything is lost, that's when real midas are born. So the Rebbe is saying here, a very, very, we look seichel and midas as a gradual process. He says it's not. It's not. There's a transformation that happens where the seichel stops for the midas to be born. Because they're two opposites. So from the yesh to the yesh, I have to go through an ayin. What we're learning here is that don't take for granted that all that's from seichel midas come. It's a completely different type of creature. It's an opposite creature. And it needs an ayin be'emtza. So if I'm stuck in the world of seichel, I can't even go to the world of midas.
There's the ayin be'emtza, the humility. Despite the knowledge that you have, you take a break and you say,
The thing is like this. As long as I'm trying to stay, I understand it. Of course I feel it. No. Yeah.
Is that the moment between the stimuli and the response?
It could be. The point is that the I understanding of something is completely not experiencing of it. Completely not. It's like it's a different world. It's literally a different world. Yeah. And as long as I want to be in control. I want to be in control of it, which is what intellect can often be. I understand it, and I can organize it, and I don't get affected, but it's not vulnerability. Midas is vulnerable. Moichin is not vulnerable. Moichin is understanding. You don't have to be vulnerable to understand a piece of Gemara. Fakert. You have to be an intellectual, and you understand it. That's why I'm telling you, the world of Midas is a different world. It's a world that's very vulnerable. It's a world of Ispilus. It's a world of Israkshus. It's a world in which I lose myself. In Meichin, you don't lose yourself. What are you losing yourself for? On the contrary, Zagasvara, explain, I'll argue, I'll defend myself. Huh? Very good. Bittul atzmi means that I'm not emotionally involved. Right? Very good. Bittul atzmi in Meichin means I'm trying to be objective. So I'm not involved. That's the point. Yeah, it's not personal. What are you getting personal for? Midas is all personal. That's the Maila. There's a Maila in Moichin also. We're soon going to see there's a big Maila in Moichin. The Maila in Moichin is I can talk about things that are very transcendent. Right? Midas is, huh?
But it's nothing to do with me.
But not me. But I could. But it's amazing.
In the ear.
Huh? Huh? There's a big mile in it. The mile of Bittul Atzmai. I can go, therefore I could talk about the highest things. Because it's not about me. Mid is the exact opposite. So it's a real transformation. It's not a gradual process. And the Rebbe is saying here, it's similar like Seichel to Koyach HaMaskal, which is the subconscious. Ad Kedei Kach is the transformation. It's like going into a whole new realm of self in which you become embodied. Where you could really see this is people who grew up with a mechanism of emotional disassociation. And sometimes it's so bad they don't even know they're disassociated. They think they're emotional, but they're completely disassociated. So it's literally like wires have been cut. And you need to create literally new wires to get from Seichel to Midas. Like you need new wires. It's like it needs a whole new wiring. And it needs a bittul of the whole old world to come into the new world. It's like it's rebirth. It's literally a rebirth. From Seichel to Midas, it's rebirth. Somebody who lived with Seichel and didn't know what the world of Midas is, to come into the world of Midas, it's literally destroying everything about yourself and creating a new person. Like a chick from an egg. I was an egg and now I become a chick. You can't compare the two. An egg doesn't become a chick. An egg ceases to be and then there's a chick. It's a new reality. It's not Ilava Allah. You needed the seichel, and then you have to let go of it. Ad kedei kach. You're not going to be able to understand this. You're going to have to feel this. Pun intended. The seichel doesn't want it. The seichel will only allow us to understand this a little bit. We're so good with seichel. Jews are am chacham v'novin. The people of the book were so good with seichel that seichel wants to control even the midas. But it's a whole different, it's a different inyan. Midas is a place of complete vulnerability. Midas is a place of complete embodiment. Hergish atzmai. It's one with you, it's integrated. It's me. Midas is me. Seichel is not me. L'cha'ira, not me sounds much better than me, right? It sounds much better than me. But there's a big challenge there. The challenge is detachment. It's not me, it's amazing. It's not me. And there's no me there. In real seichel, there's no me. It's beautiful. And that's the mile of seichel. The mile of seichel is put yourself aside and learn about the inyan and explain it. Yeah. One of my children told me that he said, Tati, when you will start embodying what you say, you won't have to give long shiurim. He says, when you'll start embodying what you say, you won't have to give long shiurim. He says, you'll know right away what you're saying, and everybody will know what you're saying. The reason you're giving long shiurim is because you're explaining words, because you're not embodying what you're saying. So the words are compensating. That's what he told me. Nonchalantly, this wasn't, I told you, the best therapy sessions you'll get from your children, and they don't charge you. And they'll give you extra hours if you want. They'll sit with you a whole night telling you how meshuggah you are, and it's all for free. And it's with that's the question, if you can handle it, yeah. So that you have to go through ayim be'emtza. You have to go to ayim be'emtza to be able to handle it. Yeah. He said it it was in the kitchen. It was in the kitchen. I was like, derech agav, you know what I mean? You could sit 10 years with a therapist, pay him $10,000, and maybe at the end you'll understand what he's saying. If he even understands this. It was almost like derech agav, like, pass the chont. Next. Like, boom. I'm like, whoops.
Like the opposite side of the bun. He's having a side of the hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Nehemiah says he wants to make a course on how to raise parents. Yeah. How to raise parents, yeah? Or Shimon Russell says, Tsar Gidol Banim is the Tsar Gidol that comes through the Banim. The children raising the parents. That's all this inyan. So I'm not going to use more words. But that I don't want to say that's the Vart. It's a completely different world. Okay, we'll take a break here. And Be'ezer Hashem, Thursday I'm not going to be available, but we'll have a share Friday morning, 8 o'clock. Tomorrow we have a women's class. Everybody have a beautiful day and a beautiful week. And Hatzlacha Rabbah. Yeah.